So another day, another movie, number 247 on the IMDb top 250 movies list. This is Pather Panchali, an Indian film made back in 1955, directed by Satyajit Ray. I apologize, I might have mispronounced that. But for the time period it came out, this was revolutionary in a lot of ways. And it made it on the top movies of all time list for IMDb, but also probably a lot of top movies of all time. This is probably considered to be one of the most influential movies in India, and for it to come out in the 50s as well, the 1950s, it came out during a time where we have a lot of classic movies come out, just like the last one that I watched in the last review from Truffaut, The 400 Blows, also came out in the 50s. And yeah, I'll start off by saying that Truffaut actually came out and said that this movie was not one of his favorites and it didn't really impact him, which I found to be interesting. This movie, like I said, is revolutionary in a lot of ways, and I'll start with the cinematography. The cinematography is very well done, and all the framing is unique, and definitely they set the bar high with cinematography in this movie and probably for other movies that came out in India at the time. And, you know, a lot of people were influenced, a lot of filmmakers were influenced from this movie, from the cinematography. And it was shot as sort of a day in the life style. There were just there's a variety of different shots in this film. And I'm sure that there weren't many day in the life movies coming out at this time, and it's almost shot in a way like a documentary. It's almost shot like a documentary. It's a documentary but with legitimate acting, so it definitely feels a little weird to watch. If you're watching it for the first time, it might be a little off-putting. And yeah, so moving on to the acting. I will say that the acting is really good for a lot of these actors being not actors at all, or, you know, rookies or amateurs. The acting in this film was compelling, and everyone did a good job at making me intrigued with what was going on in the story. And moving on to the story is a sad one. It's depressing, and it can be hard to watch, especially since this is set in poor India. And yeah, it's just, there are a few characters in this film where you are just sad to watch how they live their lives and really scrape by. And I think it does a really good job of showing the lifestyle of these people. And it's sad because the father in this film has aspirations to be a writer, and I think what's really sad is, that is a lofty goal and something that's basically, you see in this movie, impossible to achieve for people living in this time period and in this location with basically no money. It's a really tough goal, and it's something that a lot of people can still relate to today. Wanting to be a successful writer or an artist is, a lot of the time you won't make a lot of money, and that's something hard to do, something hard to realize, is you're going into something where only very few people become very successful and make good money. And I think the father in this film, it's sad to see that he just wants to do something that's just, what pure to his heart. He wants to follow his passion and his ambition, but just by his lifestyle and his circumstances, that's really hard to do. And there's a lot of things that happen in this movie that are sad, just given the state that they are all in, with sickness and illness, people didn't live very long. And yeah, it can be hard to watch at times, just, I wouldn't say graphically or anything, but the story really can compel you. And I think the filmmaker did a really good job with writing the story in this movie and shooting and directing it. Now, I would say I would agree with Truffaut. I found this film to not really impact me, and I think for a big reason, it was like 45 minutes to an hour of unnecessary screen time. You know, I think in a lot of ways I understand why they did that. It's a new style, it's showing day in the life, and you know, there's a lot of things that you would think you would need to include, and showing off how these people lived and just different shots and interactions with each other. But I think it sort of takes away from the story, and it makes the story a lot less impactful. And I think if they just re-edited this movie and took out a lot of that and put the story all together as one whole piece, I think the movie would be a lot better. And yeah, I just think for me, it didn't really impact me, even though I do understand why it has the praise that it has. Like I said before, the cinematography, the framing, the acting, the story, from when it all came out during that time period, I'm sure was revolutionary. And especially in India, this is definitely one of the top films ever made in India and paved the way for a lot of filmmakers. And yeah, I have massive respect for the filmmakers for making this movie. After reading sort of behind the scenes of making it, you know, it looked like it wasn't even going to be made, and there was a lot of struggles in creating this movie. And I think because they ended up putting something together, that is impressive in itself. But for me, I would rate this movie only a 6.6 out of 10, and I actually don't think that this deserves to be on the top 250. I know, I think a lot of people are going to disagree with that because of how influential it was, especially in India over there in that side of the world. But I really didn't think it was that great. I just think it dragged a lot. It was a long movie. Even though it was 2 hours, it felt very long. And it was, a lot of the movie was quiet too. And you know, there was just so many interactions and dialogue that I felt could have been taken out. And I think sort of when you get towards the end of the movie, it starts to all come together and get better and get more emotional. But I think as a whole, this movie really leaves a lot to be desired. And I would say that because the 1950s was a time where so many classic movies were coming out, I would say that there are actually more that I would recommend that you should watch before watching this one. I think that there's a lot of movies like I watched in The 400 Blows that you could still watch and see the cinematography and see how influential it was and have almost a better takeaway than watching this movie. It was a 6.6 out of 10 for me. Let me know what you guys think. If you like this movie a lot or if you don't like it, let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to read my full written review, that will be in the description below on Letterboxd. And once again, guys, remember, it's just art dudes, and I will see you all tomorrow.